friends. I'm Karen, and this is the Family Food for Moms podcast. We're talking about inspiration for family cooking and dining. Today, we're going to be talking about what we can learn from Australia about food, dining, cooking. Hopefully, it'll inspire something new in our kitchens. So quite a few of the food traditions originally came from the indigenous or native Australians, often called the Aborigines. And then later on there was a large British influence, as it was a British colony. Australia is a constitutional monarchy now with the King of England as its head of state, and it's a member of the Commonwealth of Nations. So you'll find a lot of the things that are for sale in Australia are similar to what's available in the UK. And I'll talk about things like vegemite, marmite, good old British things. So if you haven't heard of those, I'm sure that'll be interesting. So traditional foods and techniques from the Aborigines, there are things like fire cooking, using earth ovens, smoking food, and eating bush foods like wattle seed, finger lime, kangaroo, of course, and the kakadu plum. So these are very powerful flavors and very recognizable in Australian cuisine. And then being a British colony, colonists brought with them ingredients and food traditions from the UK like flour, sugar, tea, potatoes and dairy. And then there's obviously a lot of sheep in Australia. There's sheep farming. And so beef and lamb are popular. And classic British dishes like meat pies, roasts, like roast beef, roast chicken, stews, puddings like Christmas pudding, fish and chips. These are common in Australian households. And the British tradition of tea drinking remains popular today. So originally, the Aborigines did a lot of hunting and fishing, gathering, and many native foods like the slang bush tucker would be things like kangaroo, etc. As I mentioned, the wattle seed. These were used less by settlers, and these days they kind of rediscovered and incorporated into modern Australian cuisine. So you've got a good blend of the British, the native Australians, the Aborigines, and then also other cultures that have settled in Australia. These would be Thai, Vietnamese, Italian, Greek, Lebanese, Chinese, and more that have all brought something to the Australian table. So very multicultural, especially in cities like Sydney and Melbourne. So because of this cultural fusion, and kind of using food as a bridge between cultures, there's lots of experimentation when it comes to well-known food or traditional food and modern influences. For example, kangaroo tacos. So taking the kangaroo meat and cooking that and making Mexican tacos with it. Or laksa pasta. Laksa is an Australian soup. It's usually made with a coconut cream broth. And then you add various toppings like prawns or chicken or fish or even tofu. And so then making that not quite as thin and then using it with your pasta is something that has been tried. They also are very big on barbecue culture, putting things on the barbie, as they call it. Communal cooking, eating outdoors, a very warm climate. So a lot of people enjoy doing that. And there's a lot of seafood, obviously, being surrounded by the ocean, the country. Prawns, barramundi, oysters. Those are often enjoyed. And then they are also big on seasonal produce like avocados, mangoes, tomatoes, which are staples. And then whatever happens to be in season. So some iconic dishes that you may have heard of, pavlova. So that one is not necessarily from Australia, but it's definitely well loved in Australia. Pavlova is a meringue base, kind of made in a circle shape like a shell, and then you put whipped cream and strawberries, chopped strawberries inside. And then you kind of get a dish with a bit of each of all three, and then it's really good. Lamingtons are like a sponge cake, and it's dipped in chocolate, kind of soaked and then coated with coconut. So squares of cakey, chocolatey, coconutty yumminess. Anzac biscuits. They're called biscuits, but these are actually cookies made from rolled oats, flour, sugar, butter, and sweetener, etc. So cookies with oats. Then the meat pies I mentioned before, those definitely reflect the British roots. So they would be probably a small round pie with a gravy meat filling. And sausage rolls. So sausage rolls are encased in puff pastry. So it's usually a cooked pork sausage, some kind of sausage, and then wrapped in the puff pastry and baked. Australians also do cook and enjoy nose to tail eating, which means eating the organs, all the parts of the animal. And they have a lot of respect and like to learn from their indigenous past and embrace the different multicultural flavors that come from many different people who've come to live there. They like to let fresh ingredients, local ingredients shine. The British settlers introduced the sheep and cattle and wheat to the country, and those have continued to thrive. So now large scale farming, both with animal food and plant foods. The iconic dish that I mentioned, Vegemite, or you also get Marmite, a different brand, and Bovril. So Vegemite and Marmite are made from fermented vegetable paste, and the Bovril is a meat-based one, fermented beef paste. When we were living in California, we had friends who'd never seen this before, and they tasted it and they called it meat jelly. It's kind of very strong tasting black stuff that's spreadable. It sounds gross, but it's actually really delicious. It's very salty. So they taste similar, the Vegemite, the Marmite, and the Bovril, but slightly different. So it's a yeast extract. So you spread it on toast. You have some bread or toast with butter, and then a little thin layer of Vegemite or Marmite or Bovril, and that gives you that lovely salty flavor. People either love it or hate it. Once you've tried it, it'll be one or the other, not in between. So I think you have to know how to use it. Having the butter really helps. Having a thin layer really helps. So if you ever get the chance to try that, you should. It's a very good, savory but acquired taste. Becomes a breakfast staple for many Australians. So some interesting Australian ingredients that you might want to try if you can find it. Lemon myrtle is kind of like lemongrass and lemon combined. It's bright and citrusy flavored, and it's great in teas, desserts like ice cream, or even savory dishes like grilled chicken or fish. You'd use it in the same way as you use a bay leaf. You put the leaf in and cook with it, and then it adds a flavor. Then the wattle seed that I mentioned, it's kind of nutty, almost like coffee or chocolate flavor combined. It's great to use in baking, breads, cookies, pancakes, even ice cream. So it needs to be roasted and ground, but you can buy the ready-made powder. Then the kakadu plum, tart, sour, but it's lovely for use in smoothies, sauces, jams. It's often also found in powdered form. Or you can use it fresh and then you cook it down. Then if you're brave enough to try to eat kangaroo, it's lean meat like kudu or other buck. It's gamey. It's best grilled or pan-seared like a steak or in stews. So medium rare is best to maintain the tenderness, not overcooked. Macadamia nuts are common in Australian cuisine. Those buttery, creamy nuts, the round ones, they're great in baking, granolas, even salads, roasted and salted. Very yummy. And then the bunya nut is like the chestnut or the pine nut in flavor, slightly sweet. Also great boiled and used in breads, etc. But you do need to soak it or roast it before using it. So to Australians, food is time to be together, to have good fellowship with friends and family, often enjoying the barbecue outside or using smoking methods or pickling, fermenting. And then they use marinades quite often, good spice blends. So just layering of flavors and enjoying the cooking together outside, enjoying the family time, enjoying being together. Slow food, enjoyed under the sun, the sinking sun. And then their delicious treats and desserts. I would definitely recommend trying a pavlova. Research that. It's pretty easy to make the meringue, and then the last part is dead easy, just the whipped cream and strawberries. And the lamingtons. Those are unique and definitely need to be tried once in your lifetime. A few more fun facts about Australian food. The coffee culture is huge. They love coffee, fancy coffee. The lot burger. So that's everything on the burger: beef patty, bacon, fried egg, pineapple, lettuce, tomato, even beetroot and barbecue sauce. Then they also sometimes eat crocodile and emu. You can find that on restaurant menus. And fairy bread. They love to have that at parties. So white bread with butter and sprinkles. The little hundreds and thousands colored sprinkles on top. And Tim Tams. There's a secret way to eat Tim Tams. The Tim Tam slam means you bite off both ends of the chocolate biscuit and then you use it as a straw for hot tea or coffee, and it soaks into the biscuit, and it's delicious. The inside is kind of aerated, wafery. So that's how come the tea and coffee can be soaked and then sucked through it. To recap then, what can we learn from Australia about food and dining? Cooking with what's local, fresh, locally grown ingredients, native ingredients. Think about our native culture and what they use and what we like to cook, and use unusual things, explore new ingredients, and visit farmers markets. Get curious about seasonal produce and see what you can add to your dishes. What grows naturally here and how can I cook with it? Then meals, social and relaxed. I'm often talking about fancy dinners and fancy meals because I love that, and I think it's a special time to have as a family. But it's also important to have relaxed meals where there are fewer rules, where you're laid back, where your friends or your kids help you cook, and food helps you to foster connection. So thinking about simple food and good company with no pressure. What can you do that doesn't take a lot of your time, that doesn't require you to jump up from the table a lot, but that you can relax and be present and enjoy the fellowship? So barbecues, brunches, casual, outdoorsy, built around connection, not necessarily built around tradition or ceremony. Making meals social and relaxed. And then number 3 is related. Get outside and enjoy creation. Dining outdoors, it always feels more relaxed, and it somehow helps us to be at peace, it kind of resets our nervous system and our connection with each other. Beach dinners, rooftop drinks or dinners, backyard grills or cookouts. Picnics are always amazing. So taking your dinner outside, taking your lunch or your breakfast outside, even if it's just on a balcony or a park bench. Pack easy foods that don't require a lot of preparation or stress. So fresh food and better mood. Little things with breads like sandwiches or bread to dip in something, fruit, crackers, all the little picnic foods. And then number 4, rethink brunch. Often we're so stuck in the breakfast and lunch cycle. So this is a great celebration or a creative ritual, having a brunch. Australians are big on brunch. So mashed avocado, poached eggs, Smashed avocado with something to spread it on or dip in it, like carrots and cucumber sticks or long crackers, ricotta on something, fruits. So just enjoy something different in the middle of the day and perhaps have a bigger meal. You can add yogurt, you can add muffins, you can add egg muffins. Anything that works well for a breakfast or a lunch, you can combine in your brunch menu. So it's a bit later in the morning than breakfast, but earlier than lunch, and then it carries you through to an early dinner. Chance to slow down in the day. Often this will only work on a Saturday because of work time, but it's still a special time to have a different day in the week. Experiment with new flavors. How can I bring color to a simple weekend meal and flavor? Let the ingredients shine. So, taking what you found at the farmer's market or grown freshly or any seasonal fresh ingredients, try to do some meals where you really let those shine. So, if you're making a bolognese, make something that's got extra fresh basil in it and fresh tomato puree, maybe even some fresh tomatoes just to make that dish extra flavorful. So you can also focus on fewer ingredients. Take something simple like your meat, if it's chicken breasts, and then use lots of fresh herbs and olive oil and sea salt instead of using heavy sauces. Or just a light dessert like some sliced peaches with cream or whipped cream. Just using high quality ingredients with minimal fuss can actually make the meal easier and simpler and more delicious. Then eating more seafood, and especially seafood that you know where it comes from. So not farmed fish, but wild caught fish. Cook it on the grill or in parchment paper with butter. Simple fish can be delicious. If we just cook it simply, use some oven roasted or grilled vegetables, and it's very healthy. And then number 7, flavorful and enjoyable trumps healthy. So it will be healthy if you're using fresh ingredients, if you're cooking with them, if they're in season. So what you can do is think of the appearance, make it visually appealing and craveable instead of restrictive. And use lots of spices, use citrus like lemon or orange, use your herbs, your seeds, even good fats to make the vegetables delicious and exciting. So think about what's nourishing and what do I look forward to rather than a restrictive what's healthy. You can use a zesty dressing where you add some lemon zest and some ginger or whatever you like in your dressing, and then add all the good seasoning to your roasted vegetables and your proteins. Hope you get to try or taste at least one of those things. Thanks for listening. And in Australian, have a good day, mate.